Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border.
Almost forgot about your application. The one note I had on your file was troublemaker. Well, you got the sample. Client's on his way, then we all get paid. You remember anything that happened? Hey, say something.
It's running great. You may need to upgrade your PC for this game.
As you can see, this game is garbage. But I absolutely love it. I'm not here to hate on this game, but I am here to look at it objectively because it's important not to sweep all the bad stuff under the rug with bad excuses for this multi-billion-dollar company. My biggest complaint? It is absolute garbage that I have a 3080, an RTX 3080, a very high-end GPU, and I cannot even get a stable 60 FPS in Starfield with medium graphics. Medium graphics. And the game kind of looks like ass anyway. This is appalling.
You may need to upgrade your PC for this game.
I guess it's time to buy a new one according to Mr. Howard. So I already have a new PC, and it still won't run what has been a basic PC standard for years. 60 FPS. You think getting a 3080 will be exciting, but then every single game needs to be crazily optimized anyway, tweaking the graphics settings, messing around just to play at a reasonable frame rate. Feels bad, man. You know what? I have a better idea. Instead of taking Mr. Todd Howard's advice and getting a 4090, because that seems to be the only card that can run this at 60 FPS, I'm just going to grab myself this mug of copium instead. Shop link below. And I'm just going to copium with my mediocre 3080 GPU. Okay, shameless plug aside. The fact that I have to go into NVIDIA settings, which a fair few people won't even know about, to cap the frame rate at 60 FPS is a joke. Not to mention, if you have the Microsoft version, you'll get a nice big FU because you can only cap .exes. And Microsoft uses apps, so you have to globally cap your FPS, like for your whole PC, for everything. So when you start, you have to cap it at 60 FPS, or for me, I couldn't even get a smooth 60 FPS, so while I was recording, I had to cap it at 50 FPS, and even then I had to keep lowering the FSR setting resolution. So enjoy manually opening and closing NVIDIA control panel and capping your global FPS every single time you start and close Starfield. The other option would be VSync and changing your monitor's FPS down to 60 in Windows screen settings, which is just as much of a joke. This game shipped without a basic option like this. Let's talk about the graphic quality just quickly. This game looks graphically like it was made in 2015. Like, I'm gonna pull up some Batman footage from 2015 and it looks better. Like, there's no excuses here. Not with this budget, not for a AAA game. And the NPCs, my god, they look like they were from 2009 Batman on PS3. I'm honestly surprised they even got this game to run at all on console. I can't wait for the Switch port where it actively blows up switches. It's gonna be funny. But maybe, just maybe, Bethesda will get it right. How many times have they re-released Skyrim? Maybe by the 20th re-release of Starfield. Maybe it'll be playable by then. It's sad to me that we have more staff than ever, and they've taken more time than ever with a bigger budget than ever. So there's no resource shortage here, more resources than they've ever had, and yet somehow we just keep heading downwards to the lowest quality ever. The fact that I had to use FSR really bothers me, because you don't pay for top-of-the-line hardware to look at blurry upscaled images. Like, I want it to run at my native 2K resolution. I think that kind of technology is fantastic, and especially if you're using mid or lower end hardware, you can upscale and have things look better than they would have looked otherwise, or maybe it makes the game playable where it wouldn't have been in the first place. However, especially with the new DLS and their fake frame insertion, a lot of the time the frames look wonky, mangled, and it does not live up to a high-end experience. Again, if this is going to get you by and you're able to play something you wouldn't have been able to play before, that's fantastic. But it's not for the high-end market. If you pay for an expensive piece of hardware, usually it's because you want it to run something nicely and look good. Honestly, at this point, I wonder why we call AAA gaming AAA. It seems to have devolved into triple F quality, so it's kind of an insult to any of the good games that used to get made that were AAA quality. I'm sad because I feel like Bethesda peaked at Skyrim. I never could fully get into their older games as much as I wanted to, and I loved a lot of the idea of it and the worlds, but it just always felt like something was missing to me. And then Skyrim happened, and it felt buggy as fuck, but also complete. I felt like that's where they really perfected the formula. Thank you, modders. We owe you one. For one of the greatest gaming experiences. Especially the constant loading screens, which everyone has complained about in Starfield at this point. There was actually a mod for that in Skyrim that took out the loading screens, and oh my god was it immersive. It made the whole game so much better. It'd be really cool if something like that could be made for Starfield, however with the scale we have I'm not so sure. If you land on planets, these marketed 1,000 planets that you can explore, you load in to a dead planet with maybe a couple of wildlife aimlessly floating around. It puts you in a little instance, you walk away from the ship a bit, and you get an invisible wall, and it tells you to go back to space and load up another instance. This is not 1,000 explorable planets, this is endless explorable instances that are randomly generated. This is honestly pretty sad. I would rather have a much smaller world that has been handcrafted, there are NPCs that actually have purpose, the world is immersive, than, okay, go explore this dead terrain that there's nothing to do on. Maybe you'll find another randomly generated cave that looks eerily similar to the other 5 you just saw. So I'm excited to see the modding scene unfold because they have a lot to do to fix this game and make it way better than it ever was. And they've already started doing it quite well. There are many mods at the moment that improve the game hugely. And the game's barely a month old at this point. I did hear that there was some rumors that Bethesda was going to try and monetize the mods again. I mean, that went so well for them last time, you know, with the riots and all that. But on a serious note, I do think that even though everyone wants their mods for free, which I get and I understand, I like that they're free. Who doesn't? I also think these heroes should be paid for their game-saving work. They're doing what Bethesda apparently couldn't with $500 million on this game. And how many years? I lost count. If they're doing this on their own, on their personal computer, and making the game that Bethesda should have made, honestly, I think Bethesda themselves should be paying the modders who fix their game for free. It's not like it's not in their budget to do so. Just pay the modder for every download that it gets. Now, while it's nice that the game came out at all, since mostly we just get remakes these days, Microsoft owns Bethesda now, which explains why the game was a little bit less buggy than Bethesda's usual offerings. But Microsoft also has a history of releasing unfinished games. Halo Infinite. So the fact that anything came out at all is basically a miracle at this point in the AAA gaming industry's lifetime. Despite all of this, all of these dramas and problems, if you're looking for more Skyrim, and maybe you're a little sick of Skyrim by this point, this is the next best thing. It's also better than nothing, I guess. Maybe? Probably? Buy Skyrim again. I'm sure they'll re-release it. In my opinion, currently the best way to play this game is the PC pass. The only issue with this is that if you do play it on the PC pass, you can't really mod the game. But currently, while there's not really many mods out, even though there are some groundbreaking ones already, it's fun to play the game in its vanilla form. I've heard many people say that the game feels like it's mid or so for the first 12 hours, but then you can really get into it. I didn't really experience this personally, it just felt like Skyrim from the start of the game. but I did notice that everything feels weak at the start. Everything feels nerfed. It feels like they're intentionally stopping the progression so that you can have more progression later, if that makes sense. Think of it like in any RPG or MMO experience where you get one skill at the beginning of the game and you're like, all you're doing is mashing that one skill, and then by the end of the game you have 500 skills and you can't fit them all on your keyboard shortcuts. I feel like this is a bad way to do things because it leads to a very boring first half of the game until the skill loops come together and the kit is complete. However, I understand it's the easiest way to do progression without thinking about it much. I do still think that this isn't the way to do it because, again, it feels like the game is incomplete and half of it's missing because it literally is. You have to unlock it later as you progress. So I already briefly touched on the 1,000 planets earlier. I personally have no plan to go exploring deserted, empty, generic MMO worlds where your ship takes you on a little teleport cutscene, you drop into the planet, you look around, huh, cool, an empty planet. Okay, let's leave and go and look at the other 1,000. That doesn't sound like a good time to me. I have enjoyed the story so far, and the game in general. I will say I do miss Skyrim cities because every NPC there pretty much had a purpose. They all had daily lives, they all walked to places like their work, they all did things. Whereas in Starfield, most of them are just mindless drones popped in to walk on a preset path. It fills the city, but it's nowhere near immersive as Skyrim. That said, it is a big city, so it's not like Skyrim where it's a small town and, you're not going to know who most of these people are in this giant city. I plan to enjoy Starfield for what it is right now. When I'm done with it, I'll probably bench it for a while instead of replaying it and all that stuff. And then around 6 to 12 months later, when the good mods have really come out and improved the game leagues and bounds, I'll probably jump back in and check it out with mods and enjoy it again as a better experience. I'd love to hear about your experience with the game. Let me know in the comments. I will go back to the loading screen thing because I do really hope that somehow there's a mod that addresses this in some way, even if it's just so you can get into your ship seamlessly and fly off the planet into outer space. I really don't think that that's a big ask. And once you hit a certain high altitude, then sure, I guess give me a loading screen and transition me to outer space. I had honestly gotten really tired of hearing about how the loading screens broke the game, but oh my god, they absolutely do. It is so immersion breaking when the only way to get literally anywhere is to travel with a loading screen and teleportation. I think Space Skyrim is fine for what it is for now overall. As long as it's the price of the Game Pass currently, I'm hoping to enjoy the rest of the time in Space Skyrim. Even with its many issues, it's still an enjoyable game and something fun that you can just chill out and waste hours on. I've already wasted plenty of hours just in the opening segment, doing all the wonderful things that you should do in a Bethesda game, like stealing all the toilet paper rolls, and flipping the toilet paper to the wrong side, and then the right side, and then the wrong side. How much did this cost to put in the game? 499 million? Ah, good choice. I see that's where we spent the budget. Sorry I questioned you. And then I found slippers. You can take slippers individually. So being the monster I am, I naturally took every left slipper in the base and left the right one. Except for this random pair of slippers that wasn't blue. I took the right one. I'm not a complete monster after all. Once I got past the frustrating game settings and actually making sure I could play the game and that it wasn't a freaking slideshow, the game was very quick to give me all the fun elements that I enjoyed about Skyrim. And if you're playing the game on PC, then you should know all about the command console as well. Which, of course, I immediately started to mess around with. Except it wouldn't work. Well, for some reason, adding 1 million gold fixed the issue, so I don't know, but that's what fixed it for me. And then I came across my first obstacle. I wanted to climb a tower. I wanted to go exploring. There's 1,000 planets. Let me explore. But I couldn't climb this simple tower. Easy fix. Toggle collision off. And there we go. Now the game's totally playable and we're having fun again. Once I was finished exploring, taking everyone's left slipper, and checking out all of the freaky glitches and looting the place till I was over-encumbered, I then decided that because the game wouldn't let me live out my dreams as a miner because there is no higher purpose, I would finally go and progress on the main story as I was being told to do. A few hundred loading screens later, we get our tutorial for the ship and space combat. Looting the other spacecrafts was a bit of a chore, but once you figure out how to transfer your ship's energy around efficiently and shoot at other ships, the combat's pretty fun. It honestly reminds me of what they're trying to do with Star Citizen, but instead of just yourself, you have a crew as well that can help you. Man, I wish they would actually finish that game. Every single time they promise something, it gets delayed by about 20 years. Honestly, the ship combat did feel similar enough to Star Citizen that it kind of made me want to play Star Citizen a little bit, except when you load up Star Citizen, there's nothing to do. At least with Starfield, there's an entire game encompassing the really cool spaceship fights. So here we are in Starfield. After our quick little space fight, we're sent to our next mission, which, a few loading screens and teleports later, is on a different planet. You land not too far from the base itself. This is the first part where the game actually opens up, and you're given a choice of how to play the game. Now, naturally, we know stealth archer is OP in Skyrim, so I went full stealth mode. And then, probably had a cutscene ruin it. Here we're given our first dialogue choice, which I actually succeeded in talking him out of fighting me. However, he made it pretty awkward for both of us, so I just decided to make it so that he could never see me again. And now, all of my problems are solved. As I was about to leave the base, I noticed there was actually a spaceship that wasn't mine, and I was like, my time has come. Time to acquire a second spaceship. Except, the game had other plans. This honestly felt really crappy, and it just broke that immersion for me. Nothing a little collision toggle can't fix. Oh wait, it still won't let me fly it. And there's the scripted flyout. Autopilot, right? Right? These ships have autopilot, right? So after being absolutely torn up over not being able to claim what was rightfully mine, I promptly Alt F4'd the game, and that's been my Starfield experience so far. As you can see, I've had a lot of fun, but also encountered a lot of garbage. Man, those poor modders got a lot of work to do. Good luck, guys. When I start getting into mods for this game, maybe I'll make more videos on the mods that I actually like. You can let me know if that's something you're interested in the comments.